first, I mean, you've dealt with politics for a long time. Did you ever think you would see something like this?
Well, I wouldn't have said so a month ago, but after this debate performance that Joe Biden put in June, this seemed like more a question of when than if, because the pressure on him never abated. It just got greater and greater, more and more lawmakers coming out, and all the powers that be in the Democratic Party were trying to push him out. And when that was coupled with all of these big money donors giving him ultimatums, I think his position was just untenable. So I wouldn't have called for this a month ago, but in these last few weeks, it seemed like this is the way we were headed.
Kind of speak to the fact that, initially when that letter came out, then the circulation starts of, okay, who will Democrats try to put up as the nominee? With Biden with a full-throated endorsement of Kamala Harris, that doesn't just give her the nomination, but that could make some people not say they want to run, right?
That's right. People have to think long and hard about whether they want to mount any sort of challenge to Kamala Harris, because somebody jumping in at this point against her has to feel like the deck is stacked against them. Do they have a real honest shot at getting the nomination? And if they don't, then they may do themselves more harm than good in trying to get it. So I think there will be a real effort in the coming days to line everybody up behind Kamala Harris, get the party unified on the same page. She may well try to diffuse any opposition by reaching out to someone prominent in the Democratic Party with a running mate offer. That'll be another calculation that will be in the minds of some prominent Democrats. So I think Kamala Harris goes into these next few weeks with some major advantages over anybody else.
Kind of talk about the fact that, things weren't looking good for Democrats since that Biden debate, and then it just started to be a domino effect with donors and about 35 Democrats in Congress calling for him to step down. This doesn't mean Democrats will beat Trump, but does this give the party, whoever the nominee is, new life?
It certainly gives the Democrats an opportunity to reshuffle the deck. Despite all the extraordinary, unprecedented events of this campaign, Biden's terrible debate performance, Trump's criminal conviction, et cetera, the assassination attempt, the race has been remarkably stable. I mean, for months now, Trump has held a small but steady lead. Democrats certainly hope that this gives them an opportunity to reset that dynamic. Now, I would expect in the short term that maybe Kamala Harris would get a little bit of a boost in the polls against Donald Trump because of just the novelty of it and Democrats kind of breathing a sigh of relief and feeling like they may be energized and have new hope. I don't know how long that will last. But, this by no means guarantees a Democratic victory. It by no means even resets the race necessarily to a toss-up. But I think Democrats believe they've got a better chance today than they did yesterday.
I was talking to constitutional lawyer David Cole. He's boarding a plane, so he's texting me. But he was saying, there may be some, it may get messy, especially with challenges from Republicans. But from everything he saw, the Democratic Party officially has not named its nominee. So, what's that process like? As far as, I mean, back years ago, I mean, every nominee would be voted on the floor. Like it wasn't just known beforehand, like we have the pleasure of kind of knowing now. Kind of walk me through the process of one, how will the nominee be picked, and then two, do you think it will have challenges from Republicans saying, "Oh no, Joe Biden, was in the primary, he got 14 million votes, he has to be the nominee."
Well, I don't think those kinds of challenges will be successful because Biden has dropped out. Any kind of challenges would be predicated on Biden wanting to continue, but somehow being denied the nomination. The fact that he has withdrawn, I think, really removes any reasonable legal basis to challenge what the Democrats do. But a nominee is not official until he or she is voted on by the convention. Now, the Democrats might do that early through some sort of virtual roll call. There's been talk of that. in an effort to meet any potential state ballot deadlines. But I don't think that any legal challenges to, especially if it's Kamala Harris moving forward, are going to be successful. Now, if the nominee is someone other than Kamala Harris and the Democrats try to use funds that were raised by the Biden-Harris ticket for some other person, then that's a much murkier legal situation. Then you might have viable legal challenges. But if this passes to Kamala Harris, I don't see on what legal basis there could reasonably be an objection.
When you mentioned the money, and from what I've been hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, this Biden war chest, I think $210 million or whatever it is, Kamala would be the only candidate who could directly receive it, right? If it doesn't go to the vice president, it could go to a super PAC, but then candidates can't communicate with them. Is that accurate?
That's right. She is listed on the filings. That is it's the Biden-Harris ticket. So she is the one person who can seamlessly access those funds. And that's one other factor that mitigates in her favor, that she, certainly will point out to anybody else who might seek the nomination, is that this is a lot of money that they've got in the bank that the party would do well to be able to access.
What happens next? In the next 7 days, I know the president's letter, he said that he will address the nation. So, I assume he's going to talk about his accomplishments and talk about what went into this decision and why people should vote for Kamala Harris. What are you going to be looking for in the next 7 days?
I'll be looking for what the president says, but I'll also be looking for what the Democratic powers that be say about what the process should look like. What does Barack Obama say? What does Chuck Schumer say? What does Nancy Pelosi say? What does Hakeem Jeffries say about how this process should now play out? Do they say, let's all unify behind Vice President Harris? She's our candidate, and try to put any contention to bed? Or do they say, we need to give the Democratic Party a chance to examine multiple different alternatives and have a more open deliberative process? Those will be the signals I'll be looking for in the days to come.
Anything I didn't ask? I'm trying to cover everything, so we ain't got to talk to you again until tomorrow.
I mean, that's all that occurs to me right now. I mean, the one thing I'll say is that you could tell even at the Republican convention that a lot of Republicans saw this coming, and that's why there were relatively few mentions of Joe Biden and a lot of mentions of the Democrats or the Biden-Harris administration. So I don't think that the Trump campaign was caught completely off guard by this. They've been preparing for this possibility. We'll see how they deal with it strategically.
And the instant reaction from Donald Trump was, he said Joe Biden wasn't fit to run for reelection and isn't fit to be president, yada, yada, yada. Like you said, it's no shock to them, but now that it's official, of course, everyone's going to have to do new polling and all of that. But the Democrat convention is in a couple of weeks. It's in August. Is it just going to be a lot of reactionary? Like, we won't genuinely know what voters kind of think for a while, right? I mean, I know everyone does polls different, but when do you think we'll get a firm grasp of the gravity? We still don't know who the nominee is, but a grasp of the gravity of what this could do to threaten the Trump campaign.
The conventional wisdom decades ago used to be that the presidential campaign really doesn't start in a meaningful way until after Labor Day. For once this year, that might be true again, where we're not going to know until after that Democratic convention is over and the dust has settled and whatever bounce the Democrats get out of their convention has kind of abated. We may not know until we get into September exactly what the lay of the land in this race is. So we're entering definitely an unsettled time.